Former Labour Justice Secretary Lord Falconer has urged the next government to scrap most prison sentences of up to a year and use instead community punishments such as cleaning up litter or removing graffiti, and give suspended sentences instead. Now, crimes of a sexual, violent or terrorist nature would be excluded. Lord Falconer says that it would help ease the current prison overcrowding, with spaces expected to run out by July the 4th. I feel like we hear this every 5 minutes. It's about to run out. Haven't they already run out? Do you think this is a good idea, James?
It's another idea out of the school for stupid ideas, on the basis that, for example, let's not tackle low-level crime, say the police, when it comes to supermarkets or shops, and up to 200 or whatever it is pounds, we won't be pressing charges, we won't be taking action. As soon as you loosen the belt, you're not talking about generally people who are caught one-off. By the time somebody's sent to prison, they've probably done a number of different crimes. Now, if you think that taking away the punishment is going to, in some shape or form, stop people and act as some kind of disincentive, then think again. This is a failure. Yeah, but this is a failure by successive governments of providing the right system, the right punishments, and coming up with alternatives. Now, if you're going to tighten up community service and really make it effective, so be it. But they're not.
But that's what Lord Falconer is suggesting that the next government does. He's not saying that we do away with any punishment for something less than a year of prison. He's saying that we put those people on litter duty. I agree with
I got put on litter duty when I was put in detention at school.
Yes,
it's a stupid idea.
Having someone who has done a minor crime, having them tagged and saying they have to be...
But hold on, what are we talking about, a minor crime? Because what might be minor for society
is that minor?
Could actually be quite a major crime for an individual. So let me explain that. Something that isn't sexual stalking, for example, could be classed under this as a low-level crime. But if you're the individual being harassed by that person, that is quite a serious crime, and you're not going to lock them up.
No, but he's saying that sexual offenders...
No, non-sexual stalking.
Non-sexual
so we're
stalking.
talking about just harassment.
Well, so if it's stalking, for example, I don't think I would put someone in prison for that. I would say that you're not allowed to go within X amount of miles of this person. Just as when a paedophile is released from prison, they're told they're not allowed to go near parks and schools.
Which is all very well and good, but another thing that tends to get under 12 months is breaching restraining orders. So you've said, OK, you don't need to go near that person, you breach it, that's less than 12 months, so you're back doing community service?
No, of course, it has to be more nuanced than that. If you are a repeat offender who gets nicked for 10 different shoplifting crimes, then it's a case of, well, you've reoffended, you're now going to have to go to jail, and we will put you in for more than a year because you've reoffended.
But that's why most people who get sent away to prison, it's not the first time. And this is why I think we've got a problem. When we've got politicians talking about, they're mixing two different things together. We've got a problem in terms of capacity within prisons. We've got a crisis within the processing system and the judicial system that means that people are sitting in the system for way too long before it gets processed and actually comes to court, which means that sometimes people are inside or otherwise before they've even been found guilty or not guilty. And then we've also got a problem with being able to police things effectively. So you've got to put better resources in, and then you wouldn't need to take this measure.
The Prison Reform Trust have done lots of research into this. Short-term prison sentences are not as powerful for people in terms of recidivism as community services. That's not my opinion. That's just the fact of the numbers. And also, if you're putting someone in prison, it's not just the prisoner you have to think about. I'm not talking about the victim, I'm talking about the prisoner's families. If you've got kids in that household, it's much better for me, in my opinion, to have that person serve their time at home so they can still be around their children, they can still be a part of that family.
That's interesting. On that note, let's go to the calls. Alex from East Lothian, what do you think about just scrapping jail terms less than 12 months? Alex?
Well, the way I see it is that anybody that's committing sexual or violent crimes should be getting more than a year anyway. And it's prison.
Just to relieve your mind on this one, I just need to clear this up just in case I confused it in any way. Anyone committing sexual, violent or terroristic acts and crimes doesn't come under this suggestion of letting them out. Even if their sentence was under 12 months, they would still go to jail. So forget those sorts of crimes. We're talking about really, in the grand scheme, things like theft, burglary, carrying a knife was on there, and I'm not sure whether that would be counted as a violent crime if nothing was done with it. But yes, Alex, continue.
Well, theft or burglary should surely have more than a year as well. I mean,
Really?
burglary shouldn't be classed as a minor offence.
Okay, so what would you give someone who, I mean, I suppose burglary would be robbing somebody's house, wouldn't it? That would be breaking an entry essentially and taking people's stuff. So there's a lot more involved. But what about theft? Somebody steals a pint of milk, Alex, they get more than 12 months?
No, that's not what I mean. Prison should really be kept for people that are a danger to society.
Okay.
In other words, most people that get sentenced to less than a year, surely community service or educational establishment or something like that would suffice. And anybody that's committing a real serious crime should be getting more than a year anyway.
Well, I feel, Alex, your issue then is with the categorisation of what is a serious crime and what is a low-level crime, and I think each individual person will probably have a different idea of what they think is a serious crime, so we can sort of argue all day about that. But in essence, I feel like you're in line with Lord Falconer then. You feel like a bit of rehabilitation, a bit of community service might actually help.
That's right. If it's not violent crimes, I mean, you get women put in prison for like shoplifting, and it's probably shoplifting because they've not got any money. So what's the point of jailing them? I mean, they're no danger to society. They're not going to mug anybody in the street. So people like that should be getting a community service or educational establishment.
James, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, no, I feel slightly concerned about this, Alex, because I just wonder, how do you take a crime and try and use it not just as a penalty for having committed the crime, but also as a disincentive for others? Because if you suddenly give the message and say, right, well, you're not going to go to prison for less than a year and it's never going to happen, and then you're just going to do community service, for some people they'll think it's worth taking the risk to do that crime, won't they?
Well, probably, aye. I mean, as I say, I know it's a bit of a separate issue, but as far as I'm concerned, anybody that's committing serious crime should be getting more than a year anyway. So any sentences less than a year should be better served with community service or some other kind of, or education or some other kind of punishment.
Okay,
as long as there's no danger to society.
Alex, thank you very much for your call there. Rowena from Cheshire, how do you feel about the idea of scrapping sentences of less than 12 months?
No, I don't think we should scrap them. I think we should keep them because they are a deterrent. And also, it's like the shoplifting thing when the police won't arrest shoplifters and all that. It's just grown out of all proportion. So if you haven't got a deterrent, they carry on committing crime. But what I do feel, and I think I've said this before on your show, 25% of young people in prison at any one time have grown up in our care system. And I mean children's homes. I don't mean foster homes and God knows what.
I remember you calling before, Rowena.
Yeah.
I see. So you think this is actually, whether we do 12-month sentences or not, is not the thing that we should be focusing on. We should be focusing on why they end up there and why the care system seems to be so correlated to it. JJ, sorry, you were reacting to that.
Yeah, so, Rowena, it's been proven that short-term prison sentences are not effective. And what you're saying is completely right. Our prison systems are overflowing with boys who've grown up in single-parent households and kids who've been in the care system. You're absolutely right on that. However, if you're going to look at prison as just being a punishment, then it's completely wrong. What we need is rehabilitation for these people. So if we are looking at certain groups and individuals from certain backgrounds who are then going to commit crimes, we can't just say, oh, we'll start when they're 12 years old. Of course, you need to start when they're kids, but these people have already offended. Putting them in jail for 12 months is not going to help them further. We need to concentrate on helping them so they can live normal lives, effective lives when they're outside of prison.
That takes me to my second point. A lot of young people are in prison now purely because they've done crime, because they want to get drug money. Now, what I do, rather than build more prisons or let people out, I'd build secure drug rehabilitation centres. And I don't mean for drug dealers and people making money out of it, but there's an awful lot of young people out there who would love to give up drugs, who can't because there aren't the facilities. And
Marina, you're right. But then that means that we don't have people going to prison for 12 months. Instead of sending those people to prison for 12 months, we find alternatives for them. They can still serve the community. Yeah. They can still do punishment for their crime, but we actually help them instead, which is, then you agree with me that we shouldn't do 12-month prison sentences?
I do actually wonder whether part of the sentence should be skilling up these individuals so that when they leave, they're able to get a job so that they can afford to live.
Well, I think part of it is that, but also I think if you categorise all crimes in the same way, I mean, something that we haven't done as a society is to have a look at crime and punishment and incentives or disincentives and what really works. Because in the past, of course, being sent to prison was the thing and that was all you could do. There are plenty of other things that could be done in terms of whether it's rehabilitation or otherwise. I don't just think that you just sort of throw somebody into prison and that's the only answer, because I think it rather depends on why they're going there. If somebody is dependent on a substance or something else, I think we've taken away a lot of the different systems that we had in place to help people off drugs, and also we've kind of been complicit.
Why have we taken them away? Why has that happened?
Well, it's because they're being cuts to the system, and I think we've forgotten, or we haven't faced up to the fact that there is a significant drug problem within this country. It doesn't matter whether you're living in a small village or a large industrial town or city, you can get pretty much any substance anywhere and at any time.
Yeah. So one of the other suggestions that keeps coming up is that we just legalise drugs. That would empty the prisons quite substantially.
Well, it might do, but then I think the thing is that you would still have, because the legal stuff would probably be taxed, you would still have, in the same way that you have hooky cigarettes and hooky alcohol, you would still have, these lines where people could supply or get it cheaper. So I think we've got a really complicated problem.
Every single prisoner in this country costs us £35,000 a year whilst they're in jail. I would rather have those people at their own cost, staying in their own homes, tagged so we know they are in their homes.
Well, hold on, you're saying at their own cost.
Yeah.
How on earth is somebody going to pay their rent if they are having to go and do community service for 8 hours a day? That's slightly unrealistic, so we're going to have to subsidise that at some point, on some level.
No, because then we change the system. It doesn't have to be a case of 5 days a week they're doing community service. It could be 2 days a week they have to attend these college courses to upskill, 2 days a week they get to work for a small fee, and 1 day a week it's picking up litter and scribbing down graffiti off walls.
I think there might be complexities in that, but I take the principle.
JJ, not for Prime Minister.
Rowena, thank you very much for your call. Elaine on Facebook says the prisons are overflowing, obviously isn't working. We need rehabilitation and education in prisons, not just being locked in a cell for 23 hours. Well, then you get people arguing that you're not thinking of the victim there. People are they're committing these crimes and then they're getting to have a roof over their head, food in their bellies, and they're getting to do education for free when most people are paying for their university degrees. Oh, it's all very confusing. Francis from Lincolnshire, what's your view when it comes to 12-month sentences? Are they a waste of time?
Certainly are. Many young people just lying there. They come back out. I'm involved with grandchildren around the area. I'm also an ex-social worker. I think payback for your crime. Get out there, get them out. I've seen it in Spain work. I've seen it for unemployed people that are painting the local area, making it look nice for the incoming holiday makers, everybody taking part in the community.
Can I ask
the only other thing I've seen where young people are interested in the community was when the poll tax came in and they said to me, why have I got to pay this? And I said, because you're now a citizen. They don't understand citizenship.
I've got you, Francis. Can I ask, though, with your experience in the community, do you think that doing a sort of community service, I'm imagining them wearing some sort of distinctive top, and is there a sort of shaming element, or would that give them a sort of kudos in society? I don't know what way it would flip.
It can be both, really. I think the more intelligent ones would realise they're contributing to society. Others might feel ashamed. But I certainly know that what they're doing at the moment with young people isn't working. The Borstals aren't teaching kids what to do, how to become a carpenter, plumber, bricklayer. They haven't got the money. It's all around us, society, and the structure of society seems to be falling apart. And something's got to be done. Let's try something.
Francis, thank you very much for your call. Thanks for all your calls after the break.